7:08 now at Newstalk 96.5 KPEL. Welcome back to Wingin' It Wednesday. Or welcome into Wingin' It Wednesday, I guess.
But it's like, where did it go? It's been a whole week
already. Well, I was
already.
about to say, it seems like it was yesterday you guys were here. Warren Cottle and Carol Ross, good morning to you.
It was yesterday. I was
Good morning.
Carol's
in the afternoon.
That office, that thing you used to call an office, Rob, I have a cot in there. I have pills and, lamps.
Whoa,
Prescription drugs.
Yeah. Ooh, blood pressure. Ooh.
Let me tell you, I have a family member who got messed up on those drugs.
Really?
Fentanyl. Oh my goodness, that stuff. It's a little patch. It just seems so benign, doesn't it? Oh
well,
my
and
gosh.
that's why I was asking him before, off the air too, about that.
And it was for legitimate purposes. I mean, this was not anything off the books or anything. It was for legitimate pain purposes.
They will put that on you like you would have a smoking patch or something. It's just
you put it on yourself. I mean, you pick it up from the pharmacist.
Right.
I mean,
now you can get it in multiple forms, but patch was the one I saw.
I'll tell you this. Yeah, I also had a family member that dealt with it, and one of the things, because we were shocked. We knew some things personally were kind of going on, and we were kind of like, "What's the deal?" And one of the things that the doctor told his family was always pay attention to stomach problems. If someone
Bingo.
always has an upset stomach, or they're constantly having to go to the restroom, or because they'll feel fine to tell you that, but that is a big side effect of being hooked on these things.
Let me tell you, it can lead to really serious stuff.
Yes, and it's so funny because you would never think. You'd think, oh gosh, always having stomach problems, but that could be a sign. Anyway. It's a bad problem. I mean, we just heard of another state, classifying it as a state of emergency, so federal funding could be used for
New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah. Okay, I want to throw a curveball. Warren, you weren't in here yet, but we started talking about the rededication of some of the in the budget, LCG budget, as we talked about.
about the healthcare ordinance.
Yeah,
not ordinance, but
the millage.
The millage that. We're trying to kind of make up for the wrongs that were done in April, I guess. But Carol, you kind of brought it in. This is becoming more and more of an issue, and it's coming up, of course, as this budget process is underway.
Exactly. Well, this is coming up November 18th. It's going to be on the ballot as well, and it's confusing to me if they set this. Well, look, we just rededicated this millage, right? Mm-hmm. We brought the animal control shelter into the millage, right, with mosquito control and the health unit, because it was the health unit, mosquito control alone were collecting too much money. Animal control is a health issue, I think. That's right. So you bring it in and you tell people we're going to expand the animal shelter, and there are a lot of volunteer groups who are involved in helping that out. Now we turn around and we say we're going to take that millage that we just rededicated, and we haven't even fulfilled all the purposes of that rededication. Now we're going to rededicate it again in a knee-jerk reaction to the flooding. This proposal will not create enough money to deal with the flooding. It will clear out some coulees and some drainage ditches, which we should be doing on a regular basis anyway as part of our regular budgetary process. But now in the guise of adding extra money for drainage, we slip in this cute little language about 0.25 mils for the purpose of providing, establishing, operating, improving, and expanding public facilities and programs to foster and enhance the parish's culture, recreation, entertainment, arts, tourism, and their respective economies. That's worse than the school board language, any lawful purpose. We have no idea what this is for. They don't even know what it's for. You try to get the mayor or anybody else in City Hall to actually describe this program and exactly who's going to run it and where the money's going to go. Why are we doing it for tourism? We already have LCVC, and they do a heck of a job. We have arts funding from the state and local funding as well. We have recreation. If you want to beef up the recreation department, good for you. They need more money. That's one area that is underfunded. But then in the middle of the hearing about this particular issue last week, Mr. Boudreaux let slip that there are four of the council members, Jay Castile, Kevin Knockham, Bruce Conk, and himself, studying all of the millages, which I say congratulations, because the library millage is one, and God bless them, they did an awesome job building those libraries, and they do a wonderful job serving the community. Do they need, unencumbered, they have about $25 million, unencumbered. $14.5 million still going for capital projects, which they have on the books. I think the last one is the Scott Library. but 25 million unencumbered. They should be looking at all those things. So my question is, if you are looking at all of these millages and how are they functioning now, 20, 30, 40 years after they were established, why don't you wait for that before you do this?
Warren, I was talking to someone about this plan that LCG has and rededication and dedication, and he said, this is someone who spent 50 or so years in local government, said sometimes you just have to land the plane. You have to land the plane and look at everything. And that's something that you should do on a schedule, either every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever, to look at everything. Do we really just need to reprioritize? I mean, you're talking about some of these things that have been on the books for decades and decades.
Absolutely, you do. I go back and I'm reminded that we still have a tax on our phone bill, which amounts to a few pennies, a nickel, a dime, or whatever, that was put on there for something about World War One, not two, but World War One. World War One ended about 100 years ago. If it wasn't 100, it was 99 years ago or something, because I think it was 1918 or something. Yeah. Maybe 17. Anyway, and it's still there, and we're still paying interest on it. Have not paid a penny on the principal, so we're just paying interest on it. So you can imagine how much we spent on that. But this comes down to the thing about any time you accept the notion that government is there to do good, then there is no end in sight to the amount of good that it can do. And that they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And, so many of these things, like Barry Goldwater said one time, they put these nice titles on there, which sounds good. It's almost like free beer. He said, but when it comes down to it, you're going to get charged a ticket to get in to drink your one can or whatever. And, that there's so many of these things. It's so convoluted that you can't, read a book one time about Leander Perez, the old Judge Perez in Plaquemine Parish. It said trying to track his dealings, trying to find out what he actually did. He was so good at covering up. It was like trying to track a nutra through the marsh. And that's the same way it is with all of these programs. It's trying to find out exactly who's getting the money, what's it being used for, and is it worth it? And when it comes down to it, is it really worth it? His old, not my favorite person, but one of Carol's favorite people was Senator Graham from Texas.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Senator Graham from Texas said, I always ask, is it worth taking money out of Dickie Flatt's pocket, who worked so hard for it, to pay for this program? If it is, then I'll vote for it. But I can tell you, there's not a hell of a lot of them can pass that test.
That's right. And the great Ronald Reagan said the closest thing to immortality is a government program.
That's right. And so, every once in a while, we do need to sit down and take a really comprehensive look at these things. And I also I think what we really need is something like a blue ribbon panel made up mostly of lay people who are empowered to look at anything and everything they deem necessary that's in the public good and should have subpoena power.
They do that all the time. They call them citizen advisory committees, and they usually come up with what the people in the government want. That is more taxes, more money.
But they need to have subpoena power, because when it comes down to it, these people never want to go in there and turn over the rocks where the real centipedes are.
All right, well, hopefully some of that reevaluation, reexamining of priorities is happening in the White House as well this week as General John Kelly takes over as Chief of Staff. Is this the stabilizing force that the White House needs? We'll ask our panelists next when Wingin' It Wednesday continues. So General John Kelly took over as the Chief of Staff in the White House. What we're hearing, maybe no open door policy anymore, people just kind of walking in when they can. Does it improve things in the White House? Warren, let's start with you on this one.
I think it already has started improving things in the White House, but I'm going to point out one thing. There's a fallacy with this question, and it says, is he someone that Trump will actually take guidance from? And that is, the Chief of Staff does not advise the President. Mm-hmm. And that I go back to James A. Baker III, who was Chief of Staff for Gerald Ford, then for Ronald Reagan, then for old man Bush the first, and served as Secretary of State, served as Secretary of Treasury, and he also was a good Marine. He was a graduate of Princeton. He was a lieutenant in Korea. And I heard him talking one time when he said, I tell the staff, first thing I tell all of them, you are staff. Nobody elected us to anything. We don't advise the president. We don't advise anybody. We don't make policy. Our job is to do our job we're given to do. And if you're not going to do that, then there's the door. And
That's good.
I think, that is so true. And that the chief of staff has also got to be somebody who will be that doorkeeper for the president. No open door policy. He's got to be somebody that's going to be loyal to the president. And I can almost assure you that they're not going to be buddies.
Yeah.
They're not going to be golfing buddies. As Richard Nixon said one time about H.R. Haldeman, he said, boy, he's a tough bastard. and Haldeman did a very, very good job for Nixon. Only that Nixon was flawed,
yeah,
I would say. But I think that Kelly, and that's what you really need. You need somebody up there. Al Haig was another one. He was a general. And Al Haig was pretty flawed too, but but he kept pretty good reign. Of course, Dick Cheney, I think, was the chief of staff at one time for one of the presidents. That he may have been chief of staff with Ford for a little while. Anyway, whatever. But I think that Kelly is probably the right man for the job. If he's not, he's as close to it as you're going to get.
Carol?
Okay, I would be scared to cross General Kelly. I might not have been scared to cross Scaramouche, but I would be scared to cross General Kelly. Just looking at him, you'd be scared to cross him. But Howie Kurtz wrote an interesting piece that I wanted to quote to you, just one paragraph, because I think it does kind of summarize. Howie is pretty much down the middle of the road. I think when he does that media buzz, he takes everybody to task when they need to be, and I do respect his reporting. He says, as a journalist, I thrive on being able to find out what's going on behind the scenes, but in this administration, I continue to be amazed at how much stuff is whispered to reporters in furtherance of personal agendas. And I think that is absolutely the truth, that because Trump is a maverick, he has a lot of mavericks in there, people who have been, doing their own thing for many years, and it's really hard to put together a team when they all have their personal agendas. When they all think they're right because they've been right on past occasions, and so maybe they picked the right candidate to back in the past, and that makes them infallible. Who knows? There are a lot of egos up there, no question about it. You hear it from your guys that you interview with Fox. There are a lot of egos up there that they have to cover. But as Kurt said, I agree with him. The leaks coming out of this White House, and so many of them proved to be false.
You have to kind of have to wonder, though, this. Instantly, as soon as we learned it was John Kelly, the report was that Kelly, actually in solidarity with Comey, said he was going to quit his job at Homeland Security.
You believe that?
Oh,
I don't.
Why? You don't hear anything. The story comes out, you don't hear anything else.
You don't hear anybody say anything.
It's like, who does this stuff come from?
Does it sound like Kelly would have said that to Comey? Comey, who behaved like a little girl with her panties in a knot because of something that the president grabbed his hand and shook his hand and hugged him or something.
That is not fair to little girls.
You may be right. They may have a little more moxie than he does. But anyway, I was just absolutely appalled at him, his testimony. What a girly man.
Oh, my gosh. All right,
really and truly, he was
take a break.
He was such a wuss. And I'm thinking, this is our FBI director? Come on, buddy, man up.
7:24 now. So we consult the attorneys up in New York?
No, only one.
We'll see. I guess we
only one. And his name was Comey.
All right. Wingin' Wednesday continues, brought to you by Service Cadillac. 1212 and 1214 Ambassador Caffrey. Some beautiful cars over there. Some great deals to be had.
Okay. Can we still buy your car?
You could still buy my car.
Okay. I love that it has the sensor in the back seat. So if your kids are in the back seat with you, and then you shut off the car,
it tells you get a really loud, high-pitched ding
that tells you
it's not comfortable. Yeah. But it tells you to turn around and check the back seat. It comes up on the screen.
Actually says.
Yep. Back seat reminder.
Yeah, so this proposal, Cadillac's way ahead of the curve on this one.
Cadillac seems to be way ahead.
Of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
You can go buy my car over there. It's a 2017 Cadillac XT5. Carol, it's pearl white on the outside.
Is that the one?
Esparto.
It is.
Okay, I'm gonna go
camel interior.
I knew it. See,
it's fast, and you
No,
know I know.
Look, I'll be honest with you. The only thing we're waiting on, we've been going back and forth, but we have to get rid of my current lease.
Come on, Carol.
I got a lease.
You know you have a 6-car garage. Have a couple cars.
Would you like me to drive your lease for you?
Till January.
I can handle that.
Carol, and I also
do
know
that.
I know about your driving habits on Camellia because I've been next to you in traffic. You can even have manual transmission on this one. You could flip over to manual and if you want to race.
Yeah, baby.
So, anyway, Service
Did I tell
Chevrolet
you about the
Cadillac.
time I was drag racing with a state policeman?
You know,
No, but that's awesome.
it's a great story.
I was very young. I didn't know it was him next to me. Then I looked over and I started seeing all the guns because I'm thinking, buddy, you are not beating me at this light. It's like he's going like this, and I'm thinking, who is this guy over here? And then I see all the guns on the side of the car, and it was like,
Go see our
and
friends.
I just waved to him, and he laughed.
Well, you're cute, so
No.
Dean and Rhonda ready to help you out. And if not, hey, it's going to be hot outside today. Go stop by and get a bottle of water and some popcorn.
And we're not suggesting that any current state trooper did this, right?
Oh,
I mean,
this
was
was
like last week.
Oh my God!
No,
I don't even
Just
want to
kidding.
tell you how long ago it was.
All right, stay with us. Wingin' It Wednesday continues next. It's 7:20. It seems like Congress and the voting base may be as far apart as they've ever been on the cost of Obamacare as it is right now.
Yeah.
It has come up a lot this week about the type of subsidies that those in Congress, their staffers, even many of the federal employees get. Because guess what? When this thing
it's so
passed,
expensive.
they said it's so expensive. But what about
Good
us
for you,
down in
Bernie.
Lafayette?
That's good.
Carol,
Bernie is absolutely right. Wow.
we know this. We know that this
Welcome to the world, baby
subsidy
girl.
was put in through an executive order, something that Trump could undo with another executive order. You think he's going to do it?
I hope he does. They should live under the same stupid laws that they pass on us.
They really should.
And you know what? And all this started as Bernie was wowing. That is absolutely how it started, because they were going to be forced to participate in I think the gold plan or something, and it was going to be so expensive for these people who make 6-figure salaries up there. Poor them. And so we had to come in, and Obama said, well, we're going to help them out, and we'll do the FEHPB. Don't you love those? Federal Employee Health Benefits Plan, and so they get to have a subsidy. Well, when we weren't looking, some of us were looking, but not all of us, the members of Congress included themselves to the tune where they get about a 72% subsidy. But not only that, that proposal that Cruz wanted to put in about being able to pay for your insurance with a flexible health
spending account.
Yeah, flexible spending account or a health savings account or something like that. They already get to do that. They can pay their insurance premiums out of their health savings plan, something like that. They get all kind of little perks. And then if they go to military hospitals, there's this extra perks. And there are perks all planted in there, little waivers everywhere. And so when Bill Cassidy told you very quietly, knowing he was not telling you all the truth, he was only telling you a little bit of the truth when you said, are you on the same plan we are? Yes.
Oh, my
But he didn't
God.
tell you about all the other. Yes, he did.
Yes, he's on it, but he pays 30% for it. 30% of what the rest of the people
Well,
are
I'm
gonna
not referring to that. I'm just referring to she's acting like she's questioning Senator Bill Cassidy's integrity and honesty.
You haven't been listening to my show.
Well, I listened to Bill Cassidy enough.
Yeah, that's enough, huh?
Yeah.
pay. Warren, what are your
Well,
thoughts?
I think people think, too, that constituents don't have a long memory, and then it's, 6 years is
or
so
that they don't have
long.
the internet.
Right, I know.
I mean,
It's like,
you
okay,
can look at all this.
They think they can
Right.
hide, huh?
Yeah. Nowadays, it's there are more people helping out. Let's put it that way.
Well, but we're going to see. Used to, the rule of thumb was that only 1% of the members of Congress got defeated at each election.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's
Yeah,
pretty.
it's like a job for life.
Yeah, that's pretty rough odds. Of course, the main thing is it takes so much money to run against one, especially those who are entrenched. As I understand it, they average raising about $10,000 a day to run on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's pretty tough, but.
Why do you think the president has not done that, Warren? Why
Done
do you
what?
think he's not issued an executive order?
Because it's probably not real high on his priority, and that, the first thing that they would do is come out and say that he was picking on the poor staffers up there who make everything work. And it's not
it won't be about them. It'll be about their poor little staffers.
And it'll be about, this couple over here that they just adopted a dog last week, and, it's cost them $500 a month. Now you're going to put this on top of that and blah, blah, blah. It's really tough. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. The one thing about it is that most of them are just pretty much pathological liars. But you mentioned Senator from Arizona. I forgot his name now. But somebody said the other day, why didn't he go to the VA hospital for this last surgery?
Especially the one in Phoenix.
Right. The main man up there who knows all, does all, sees all, whatever. And so with his little brain surgery, why didn't he take advantage of the VA hospitals? The VA health care. Senator McCain.
Yeah. You went to Mayo. Probably got top-notch care, but
I'm sure he did if he went to Mayo.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff.
I'll have to ask my friend who was the first woman surgeon at Mayo Clinic what she thinks about that.
Is there anybody you don't know? I mean, you're cool.
There are a few.
There are a couple, but who wants them anyway?
I'm surprised he doesn't have Trump's private number. He
may.
Maybe he does.
Because he goes to his contact list.
212-456-1414.
You were right the first time.
You were right the first time, 202. Yeah.
We're a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk to this.
New York.
Yeah, that's right.
Cyber expert. There's been another breach. More personal information. One big one is scripts. Okay, someone actually got into Game of Thrones is what everyone is all going crazy about right now. Well, someone got the scripts for the rest of the season, so you know exactly what's going to happen the rest of the year. We also have news this week about the hacker. Well, you may tell me it didn't actually happen. Did it actually happen that the European hacker was in touch with someone at the White House?
Well, he sent out the tweets and he sent out the transcripts.
Yeah.
He sent out the transcripts of his tweets, and I can see why Scaramucci and Priebus got into it, because he was posing as Priebus.
Yeah.
Sending stuff to Scaramucci. I mean, it's funny stuff. It is really funny stuff. And I think CNN or CNBC maybe, one of those had the transcripts online, and it was really good. It was good. They were at each other, You can see why the whole thing kind of exploded, because if they believed
that the other was really saying
real,
that about one another.
Well, yeah, you're going to get so much great information.
Right, and the biggest example of this is
from?
Podesta. Podesta was, goofed like this. I mean, they did a fishing expedition. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, we still don't know what's in those 33,000 emails. The Clinton State Department was like a sieve, except you never heard about it because the media friends would protect them. But they left laptops around. They had cell phones when they were told, don't bring cell phones with you to Russia and to other, places you'll be hacked into. I mean, we don't even know all the breaches that occurred when that went on, because they were protected. Nobody leaked. That was one thing. They had message discipline, message. It was a bad message.
I do have a question about Russia. Why is it only now that suddenly they want to affect an election? Where was this Russia discussion 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago? That does interest me, because now everything that we hear is it's Russia.
Well, it's as meaningless now as it was then. Basically, I mean, it really is a totally made up story in terms of of them affecting the election. Now, do they like to meddle? In other countries, you bet they do. They try to destabilize everybody they can. And of course, they've done a wonderful job in casting doubt on our electoral process, which it's not in doubt. Donald Trump, fair and square, won the election. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's kind of miraculous that he did when you dig into the fake voting that actually did go on from fraudulent voting that is being documented over and over again. There are 3 different paths being followed now. Judicial Watch has done magnificent work on this. True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht, because her organization was targeted by the IRS. And also now Donald Trump has put in this commission. Now people can scream about Trump putting in this commission, but there have been multiple other agencies of government, and now there's a new Government Accountability Institute that's looking into it as well. So there was fraudulent, and when you have a state like California that issues driver's licenses and legal IDs to anyone and does not even ask to see those IDs when you go to vote, there are millions of illegals in California alone who vote.
Mm-hmm. I guess as someone who totally agrees with you that Trump won fair and square, I wonder why it even matters.
Because
why does it matter to him?
Because Hillary is the woman's scorn, and they will be held to pay.
And it's not just Hillary; it's the whole establishment up there that you know that
they're against Trump. Look, the Republicans too.
Absolutely. I mean, they were just so stunned that he actually won. They could not believe that the American people turned on us. They turned on us. Those idiots, you know, we've done everything we can for them, and look what they've done to us. And so, you know, but look, this thing about the fake news and all that, so much of the fake news has turned out to be, you know, really, really fake news, you know, just completely made up stuff. Aside from the fact that thing about somebody posing to be someone else and actually gets the interview. Did you ever see the thing with old Ali G? Who was
the Ali G show. That was a great show.
When he did that thing where he was some kind of a big deal from England or whatever, and he interviewed my friend James A. Baker III. He interviewed the guy who was former national security director under old man Bush and them. Then he started asking all those stupid questions, you know.
And they answered him seriously. They really weren't sure that they did not know he was.
But you know, these things happen. It's just like during the Watergate hearing, somebody called in there and said they were from the White House, and Richard Nixon was getting ready to come up with a confession at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it blew up the news media. Then it turned out about 3 minutes later said no, that was somebody posing to say from the White House. When I was in Vietnam, we were pretty close to the MPs who worked at Westmoreland's house and that looked after security and all over. They said some clown calls in there one night about 2:00 in the morning and said he was some 3-star general from up in 2 Corps or whatever and wanted to speak to General Westmoreland. So they go in there and wake him up, and this guy flies in to cuss him out and tell him, you know, really and truly, you know, what he really is. And what he really was, and so it said, you know, there was hell to pay around there then, but of course they never found out who the guy was. They couldn't trace it or anything. But
oh my gosh!
All right, we're going to be back to wrap up Wingin' It Wednesday after this quick break on this Wednesday, August 2nd, 7:50 here. Wingin' It Wednesday continues as we wrap up this week's edition of the show. Topic we talked about yesterday and a little bit earlier on this morning in Lafayette Live: the possibility of buried power lines across the city of Lafayette. Now, we know the new developments already have it. Some other cities have done it. One in particular, most recently, Anaheim, just finished their project. They charged a temporary 4% surcharge. But here's the problem we have here. What if your power lines are already buried at your house? Should you have to pay? And what about those main drags? Warren, it seems like a beautification thing, but also during hurricanes, maybe power could come on sooner. What are your thoughts?
I think that if that's what the people of Lafayette want, then you do it. You know, 4% surcharge. I don't know. Maybe it take 25% surcharge.
He doesn't live in Lafayette.
But no, I'm just saying it's the same way. If it's Anaheim, California, if it's Rochester, New York, or whatever it is, that's what you want to do. Then pay for it. You know, and if the cost is going to be something, well, you know, when does cost come involved in it? Yeah. So you know, you just got to decide if we're going to do it or we're not going to do it, and I think probably that, you know, but if it's going to come down to do it, then, well, yeah, you're going to have some kind of a surcharge, some kind of tax. Maybe we'll just have a new property tax. Maybe we'll just have a new increase in sales tax just for the people inside city limits of Lafayette, which is where that's going to occur. But,
yeah.
You know, look, those kind of things, they're nice little feel-good things and all that, and that if you can afford it, then do it. But if you can't afford it, then let's stay away from it.
Carol?
Well, I seem to remember something called a Complete Streets proposal for Johnston Street, right? For the section from, I think, Cajun Dome Boulevard to the horse farm. And that was going to cost $25 million, and it was going to have buried utilities, and it was going to have bike paths and sidewalks and more landscaping and a lot of beautification. I don't know what happened to that. I mean, it just kind of went up in the ether. Poof.
They could have taken that money out of the mosquito fund.
Now, the MPO, no, they have plans for that. They're going to do CREATE with that. That's their acronym for today. And then I see in the budget in the paper today, we're going to have a, well, let me see if I can get this right, a development fund, a Lafayette Development and Revitalization Fund. It's going to be a revolving loan fund.
Okay.
Like a credit card.
Or a slush fund.
A slush fund.
Well,
we don't know what it's going to be for. Now, who's going to administer it?
But don't we already have something like that?
Well, we have several things like that.
Now I'm asking a question.
We have several we have LPTFA, and they sort of,
that could be used for a loan program,
that
right?
could be used for almost anything these days, it seems. And the other thing is, who's going to administer this? And are there going to be favored developers that get their hands on this money? Who's going to decide? I know it. Shame on me. Warren is giving me a look like, how could I be so cynical? I don't know, Warren. Shame on me.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
For being so cynical.
Carry on.
Just stay out of my slush fund.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I don't know what happened to that, but I do know that we have something called an MPO, which is a Metropolitan Planning Organization, and they say that is their ideal, complete streets. That is their policy, complete streets policy.
Okay.
Well, guess we'll see. Warren says, if you want to do it, just do it, but you got to pay for it.
Well, my point is this, if you're serious
about
about drainage, then you do drainage.
Yeah.
But if you're not serious about drainage, then you try to rededicate this. And how stupid were they? What kid in City Hall told them, put this on the same ballot as those 2 millages that you keep telling us are desperately needed for the jail and the courthouse complex? And so now, not only do you put this rededication and call it drainage, you slip in this thing about this CREATE fund, another slush fund. Are you serious about solving the drainage problem? Are you serious that we need that money for the jail and the courthouse complex? Because it doesn't seem to me
like
that you are.
I was going to say, do you think it will go the same? You think it'll go exactly the same way that'll just fuel the fire
I'm hearing
for
from people, Art. If yes, we desperately need drainage, but let's focus on that. And is the little bit of money that they're going to get out of this enough to solve our drainage problem? As Mr. One of the geologists, he was a hydrologist. He worked at LSU. He spoke at the city council meeting. I think his name is Dr. Walden. And he said what we need and what FEMA, I understand, is trying to be a catalyst for with the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the various parishes is an area-wide flood management plan. Cleaning out some coulees may help one area and cause a problem in another area. But a regional management plan for flooding is what we need, and this won't even get us close.
Go ahead, Warren.
And with that, I want to go back and say let's revisit the FEMA map, the FEMA flood map that came about 12 or 13 years ago, which was never incorporated. And I still want to see that map overlaid with the last 2 floods.
You know that you make a great point. Someone called into your show, Carol.
Yes.
Had to be a couple of months ago when we were talking about the dredging, everything else. It was kind of the hot topic. And he said, look, I'm an engineer. The problem that you have in Lafayette is it is the flattest. Now, I didn't check this guy on it. It's the flattest parish in the state. You have to have something push the water out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just going to sit. If there's no hill where it's just going to run down the hill.
And your restrictions are in Vermilion Parish, and so wherever you got your restrictions is where it's going to back up from. That is one of the laws of physics.
There you go. Warren Cottle,
Thank you,
Carol
Dr.
Ross.
Cottle.
Yeah, appreciate that, sir. Make sure I'll sign up for your class for the fall.
And look, and let me tell you something. I don't consider any of us Debbie Downers or Donald Downers. We have got to ask questions of our government.
Well, it's our money.
Exactly.
It's every single person's money.
Yes.
So all this blue sky stuff I see coming out of City Hall is all well and good if you had unlimited funds. There are people hurting in this parish right now who are just having trouble putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads.
I have talked to a couple of different people who do not only the formed groups, but a couple of different church groups, and they said it's the worst they've ever seen.
Exactly.
We do Wingin' It Wednesday each and every Wednesday at 7 o'clock right here on Acadiana's Morning News. We're back after this.